This is Governor Bobber. I like good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Hey, this is Governor Chris Christie from New Jersey. Good day, doctors.
Go! You're watching Dr. Politics.
It is July 19th, 2024, and it's Friday, and you're watching Dr. Politics. Busy week. The RNC had a great convention. I think President Trump gave probably the best speech of his career last night as well. Well.
I know you're a Trump guy, but you didn't need to spend 90+ minutes. Okay, that was.
I was at the CPAC speech that went for over 2 hours. And there is something to let them begging for more.
And I don't think a lot of people turned it off after like an hour.
I mean, I basically fell asleep.
Yeah. See, what is that? They gave a great speech. I fell asleep.
I saw the highlight reels this morning, though.
Go ahead, Dave.
Was it extemporaneous? It almost sounded like he was just speaking off the cuff, but I don't know.
Apparently that's what happened. I mean, he had prepared remarks, which they released to the press. So that was that first part of the speech where he talked about getting shot and all this stuff, and then bringing everybody together and all of this thing. And when he got into the attacks on the Democrats and he starts kind of going off and those were off script, which Trump does that kind of stuff. But and up to this point, the convention had been going pretty well for the Republicans. And Trump was doing very well, but he basically had at least a couple different speeches within that speech, right? He kind of had that first really unifying, really good, meaty thing there to put people together. And then he kind of reverted to Trump on the campaign trail with the attacks on the Democrats and things like that. That he actually didn't need to do. I mean, he's got people in his camp as a result of the shooting. Putting together just a unity speech, that's really all he needed to do. Yeah. So I think he helped him. He was doing good at the beginning, and then that whole long thing. And look, Dwight, you and I have been to national conventions, and I don't know whether or not David you've been to these either, but they're long. They can be very long days. And the delegates are there for a long, long time, and Trump knows that. You give a 20 or 30-minute speech and then send them back to their hotel. They can get packing, and then they can leave the next day and stuff like this. But an hour and a half, those poor people were tired, and I'm sure a lot of them left the arena. Because that was just about it. They're going to have an early flight to catch or whatever, or they were taking a drive, and they just couldn't stay up any later because that speech comes on late at night to begin with. So, it's a little bit problematic. But I don't know. Is it Trump being a little cocky now that he knows he's got the sympathy of the nation in general, and the Democrats are kind of stuck because they can't really attack Donald Trump after this assassination attempt.
Although Tuesday night, Joe Biden did say he wanted to put a target on his back, with Lester Holt. Here's a question.
Well, he backed off. He tried to basically.
You said it was a target, not a bullseye.
Yeah, put the target, not the bullseye, and get away from that. And
Sarah Palin was targeting all those congressional districts, and
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they. So, I mean, also here's the thing. This goes back to the rhetoric of the left. Since 2016, you had Johnny Depp. When was the last time an actor shot? I mean, he was advocating the assassination of President Trump in 2017. You had Kathy Griffin having that effigy, a bloody effigy of Trump's head she was holding. And a lot of this stuff is going to trigger those weak-minded Democrats, and there are a lot of those, mental cases and so on, where they could take this the wrong way. I mean, you had Maxine Waters. I want you to get in their faces. Barack Obama said that. This is just a culmination, and this is, I remember in the 80s, the left was lamenting that John Hinckley Jr. didn't get a second shot off at President Reagan.
Mm.
We're lamenting that Squeaky Fraud never was successful in assassinating President Gerald Ford. And Gerald Ford was only president for 18 months, and he was such a nice guy. He's like he was the closest thing to a Homer Simpson-esque president, frankly. And there was actually a Simpsons episode that our friend Matt told me about. And I think I saw it actually years later, but it was where the Bushes move in to Springfield, and they're having tea with the Flanders, and Ned Flanders goes, "Well, not everybody here is a good president." Bart rolls by on a skateboard. Then there's this ongoing feud between Bush and Homer. And there's a funny line where Barbara is having coffee with Marge Simpson, and she goes, they just got off on the wrong foot. It was like that with Manuel Noriega, too. And now those two are best of friends. But the Bushes move, and Jerry Ford moves in. And Jerry Ford asks Homer, "Do you like ice cream?" Homer's like, "I like ice cream." Jerry Ford's like, "I like ice cream, too." So they both go, and they both trip 3 times getting over there. But the point is, the left, they lamented when that shoe thrower missed President Bush in the Baghdad press conference. Sorry, lefties, President Bush has cat-like reflexes,
Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, I think this stuff happens on both sides, but it tends to happen more on the left. They tend to lose it quicker than our side does, because there's always going to be kind of the lunatic fringe in both parties.
Remember, yeah, and we're all different from Oklahoma City. When Oklahoma City happened, what did the left do? They blamed Rush Limbaugh, right-wing talk radio. Yeah. And it turned out that little Timmy McVeigh was just a disturbed individual.
Well, and think about it this way: if you say that he's going to be Trump, an authoritative, a dictator, a fascist, my guess is throughout history, the majority of assassins killed their target for that very reason. They thought, well, this person will be a dictator, like Booth said, Sic Semper Tyrannis. So when they go around saying things like this about Trump, that he's going to be a dictator, he's going to destroy democracy, I just think that's inherently going to turn up the heat on him, and unfairly, of course, because he's not going to be a dictator any more than Joe Biden's a dictator in terms of executive orders or ignoring the Supreme Court and things like that. So fundamentally, yeah, they have been stirring up the hatred for Trump, and it's irrational as well. But
look, and we've already had 4 years of Trump, so we kind of know where we're going with him. Maybe he'll pile on and do some other things in a second term, but it's not like he's an unknown quantity. So to say all these things when nothing like that even remotely happened during his first term, is blatantly false. And It is just stirring them up so that you have when you have a candidate like Joe Biden, you've got to paint this picture of Donald Trump as like a fascist or as a Hitler or whatever in order to get people to vote for you, because that first matchup was really not because people wanted Joe Biden. It was just there were a lot of people who didn't want Donald Trump in there. The Democrats did a very good job of stirring it up and creating this whole atmosphere of, Joe Biden is not Donald Trump, and that's really all you needed. That's not going to work this time around.
Because he's the incumbent. He's got 4 years, and the one thing I'd also point out in terms of his dishonesty is the dictator thing. He says, "Well, Trump said he'll be a dictator on day one." Actually, he didn't say that. The interview with Hannity, and he was joking with Hannity. He said, "I'm just going to be a dictator for one day, just one day." But that's different than I'll be a dictator on day one. So that's not the same thing.
These are the signs of a dictator are like when you try to pack the Supreme Court to get your way.
Right.
And the only president that I know, the only two presidents I know that tried to pack the Supreme Court were both Democrats, FDR and Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And
that's the other thing too. I mean, you mentioning that, it's just that Joe Biden has not been really in favor of doing these things. This is from the far left, but now grasping at straws because it's the AOC, it's the progressive left, the squad people. They're standing firm with Joe Biden. So Biden is now, this thing is like, well, we should have term limits for the Supreme Court and all these kind of things. Not understanding that this would require a constitutional change in order to make the changes he's looking at. But the Democrats aren't happy with the decisions the Supreme Court made and have made, thanks to the fact that Donald Trump was able to shape the court in a more conservative tone. Not completely. It doesn't go conservatives' way all the time. I mean, this last term was pretty good, but it wasn't 100%. It wasn't a slam dunk. The conservatives got some wins, but they took some losses too. So, the liberals don't quite have a complete picture here of saying like, it's the Supreme Court is just kind of this knee-jerk, right-wing group, because I don't know that we absolutely know which way they're going to vote. Now, what does tell is that, one of the things that I always think that's interesting is that when they have those oral arguments, you get a feel for which way the court probably will rule, but it's usually months before that they do rule, and they could still change things in that period of time. The oral arguments are, we're going to be in March, and the decision is in June. Who knows what the heck they'll be discussing in the meantime as they kind of try to suss all the legal matters out. So overall, Supreme Court, thank you, Donald Trump, for shaping it the way it has been. Hasn't been perfect. Reagan didn't do a perfect job either. Bush, none of these guys did a perfect job, but it's better than the alternative.
Yeah, absolutely.
And here's another sign of what dictators do. They use legal channels to go after their political enemies. People's Exhibit A, Mr. Navarro, and what's his name? Name slips me. I know his name like my own.
Roger Stone.
Roger Stone.
Okay.
You got to say something about the fact that Navarro gets out of jail and he speaks at the convention.
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, I like him. Hopefully, he'll come back in the administration.
Yeah, and then you had
cool.
you also have they went after parents at school board meetings for having the audacity. That's what dictators do.
Yeah,
they make you fearful of law enforcement. They want you to be afraid to speak your mind and I bet a lot of people were afraid to go on the record or even post anything on Facebook that might deem them invite an IRS audit from them. And it also goes further to the point where you have, over the years, you have that, and we had coming up these administrators, they referred to Nixon as a dictator. President Nixon didn't do Can you imagine if Richard Nixon was able to arrest some of his opponents? That would have been so great, I think,
Well, I think the people, it's falling on deaf ears. I don't think people buy the whole Trump dictator sort of stuff, and that's why he's pulling ahead right now.
Yeah,
and I mean, every day now I'm seeing more. Not that I'm a big believer in the polls, but every day another one. We got 2 polls now in Virginia where Trump is over Biden. I mean, it's looking bad. I mean, and that's why if he stays in, and I hope he does, I think Biden's like a melting ice cube as a candidate. Like on a hot summer day, he's the melting ice cube on the curb, and every time you see him, it's going to be a little less, a little less, a little less. So,
but he's got COVID now, which is kind of where did he catch COVID? Is what I'd like to. He hasn't,
I don't know.
I wonder if it's just a ruse that he's got COVID.
That wasn't true, and he's just trying to go hide for a little longer.
I understand there might be room for him in St. Alba.
Well, he'll be back to Rehoboth.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to those polls, you're talking about, David. I mean, just the problem for Biden and the Democrats is just that, if Trump isn't ahead in some of these states, he's closed the gap in a lot of the heavily Democrat states enough so that it makes the Democrats uneasy and forces them to spend more money and more time in areas that, and then take them away from other areas. So that, they have to spread themselves a lot thinner as a result of all of that. So that
they have to spend money in Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan. They might even have to start spending money in Virginia, Arizona, not Arizona, but New York. I can see them.
Trump's got a huge presence in New York.
Yeah,
I mean, he may not win.
They might have to start spending money in New York.
But he's made the Democrats nervous.
Yeah.
And New Jersey, like I said, might be in play. I don't think New York is, but New Jersey.
And they're all very expensive media states.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you saw this. I mean, there was the CNN, their political unit or whatever, they're pulling it. They had, with John King reporting on it, they did an electoral vote count, and they had Trump at 303, but with also saying that they've been hearing from other Democrats that its potential was that Trump could go to 330 or more. I mean, and just really wipe Biden, out, because this is how bad things are going for them. And we don't know. I mean, we don't know how accurate the polls are going to be. Republicans have tended.
We all remember 2012 when we thought Mitt Romney was going to be president.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. I mean, it's it depends upon who are you interviewing and what are they saying? Are they telling the truth, or are they just fibbing a little bit? It's a snapshot. They're trying to find people. The pollsters are trying to find ways of rebuilding their credibility and gaining more accuracy in that. I think when Real Clear Politics, at least when they do their amalgamation, and they do the polling average, I think that gives us a little bit better thing, because they're taking 14, 15, 16 polls and then aggregating them and saying this is what it comes out to be. So you're just not looking at the liberal poll, the conservative poll. You take a bunch of polls and you say, okay, well, we kind of, and they're all polling different people, so this is what we're coming up with, and everything. So
I tell you, and the fact that he picked J.D. Vance, it speaks volumes. He picked a millennial, so we've got the potential of having 12 years, of good Republican leadership, frankly. And J.D. Vance, called, he basically was not a rah-rah Trump guy. It shows how,
at one time he became that, though. But he became that. I mean, he wasn't,
Yeah, but my point is this. President Trump is building a team of rivals. He's got, look at the people that spoke there. People that said, he had Nikki Haley there, who was one of the last holdouts. You had Ron DeSantis, who he had some real dislike for. and it was really a wonderfully orchestrated convention. This may have been one of the best conventions I've probably seen since Bush 2000 or Bush 2004, frankly.
Well, the other thing is he picked Vance because, and I agree, people don't really vote for vice president, but he picked Vance because I think Vance is to be his successor, because Vance is the MAGA, the younger generation of MAGA. So I think Vance, it was an ideological choice to make an impression on the party. But the other thing is that's a shot also at DeSantis, because people think of DeSantis being the front runner next time. Well, now I guess it would have to be Vance, right? Because he'd be VP.
Yeah, then you're gonna have you're gonna have Senator Hogan running for president too in 2028.
I guess I just hope Hogan wins. I don't know how that race is.
There's another poll that has him up.
All right, good. Good. He definitely should be able to win that, even though it's a very, very blue state. I would think Hogan could still win it.
Well, I'll tell you this: we need to basically pretend that we're behind. Even with the Trump campaign, we got to fight like we're behind. Frankly.
Yeah.
Leave no stones unturned, knock every door, so to speak.
There's still way too much time to say that it's over. Because it's not over until all the votes are cast and they're added up and we see where we are. So it's that don't count your chickens, right? So we have to do that. And you're right, Dwight. I mean, it's like you play this as if you were still behind. You're still go out there and be aggressive, raise the money, beat the campaign trail, talk about the Biden failures and things like that. That combined with the disastrous debate performance. I mean, here we are, almost 4 weeks. We're 3 weeks, going on 4 weeks since that debate. And and it's still kind of news out there because it's still a reference point as to what's happening with the Democrats today, about how much calamity or just the collapse of things, with the campaign going on there. I mean, not that the Democrats probably felt halfway decent. They thought there was going to be competitive.
Welcome, Jason.
What?
Yeah, look at that. But after that debate, the doubts seeped in. And the momentum is just built right over time now about whether or not Biden's the guy to carry them forward, and that's just a tremendous problem for them. But and we want, and as Republicans, you would want Biden to stay in because it's like that's a slam dunk for us.
And also we believe in democracy too, Don. It's not that we believe in democracy. If they are to bait and switch, they are disenfranchising the millions and millions of Democrat voters who in the primary cast their vote for Joe Biden to be their nominee. They did not cast a vote for Kamala Harris or Gavin Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer or
Wes Moore. It's interesting. They keep pushing Wes Moore. I keep hearing it. Wes Moore could be the president, and I don't get it, but I know it's a politically correct sort of thing.
And I'm sure a lot of these other Democrats are like, yeah, I'd love to take a shot at this. I want this opportunity. Even if I lose, I want this opportunity to make a name for myself on the national stage and do something, because then it'll be an open race next time anyway, and so it's anybody's game theoretically. Going forward, could they beat Vance or whatever, or how much of a contested primary will Republicans have, et cetera.
Well, we're Republicans. There's going to be a contested primary. We're not going to. I mean, remember 1988? How many Republicans were running for that? You had Bob Dole,
Pierre DuPont, Pete DuPont. The great
Pierre DuPont would have been great. He would have made an excellent president.
I think he would have been great. I think Pete DuPont would have been good.
But I tell you, here's something else. Okay. Do you guys remember the Hunter Biden laptop story? How social media kind of silenced it, and they said it was misinformation or hate speech. You notice that there's a lot of hate from the left on Facebook and Twitter, and none of those guys have been blocked, banned, or anything. There is, I've seen, dang, he missed. Try again, buddy. Or the ultimate, this is all an inside job. The conspiracies are going crazy.
Well, or Michael Steele, you're Michael Steele suggesting he wanted to see Michael Steele wanted to see the bullet? He didn't think it was real. He didn't think it was real.
I tell you, Michael Steele should not be casting stones. There's a lot of things we could ask Michael Steele about.
Have we totally disavowed Michael Steele that he had any relation to the Republican Party in Maryland at all at any time?
Yeah, pretty much it. Yeah.
I think you would.
But I mean, if Michael Steele wants to see the bullet, I would like to see the receipts from when he was RNC chair or MDGOP chair, for that matter, where we had to pay him $5,000 a month to be Bob Ehrlich's running mate in 2002. I mean, Jason, you used to work for the state party. Is that not outrageous? Imagine if we had to pay our chairman $5,000 a month.
You know what that sounds like, Dwight? That reminds me of Alan Keyes.
Yeah, I remember that with Keyes.
You know, he still lives in Durwood.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
So what happened with Keyes? He was taking money that was fun. He was paying himself. Was that what it was?
Yeah. He was I think he was getting paid over $10,000 a month from the campaign or something like that. You know, because he had a pretty good salary as head of Citizens Against Government Waste. So, you know, he couldn't run for office and then sacrifice his lifestyle too much, right? So
he's grown accustomed to it, you know.
Yeah,
he's grown accustomed to that lifestyle, you know. Just like Michael Steele, you know, he grew accustomed to that lifestyle.
Yeah, but wouldn't that run counter to the whole theory of Citizens Against Government Waste? Doesn't that kind of, well, we're going to pay you for...
Those guys now go into the category of grifter to me. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of grifters around. It's so sad.
I guess
so, Jason, what did you think of the speech yesterday? The president's speech?
I think it was pretty good.
A little too long.
Maybe you were. So I was interested in what the coverage would be. I watched a lot of CNN this week because I knew Fox would be. I knew how Fox's coverage would be, so I was kind of interested.
Fair and balanced.
I was wanted to know what CNN had to say, and all CNN talked about was how long it was. So it must have been pretty good. If the only thing they could say was, "Wow, it was long." Yeah. I mean, after you walk away and all it was long, I mean, that's fine. But to tell you the truth, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I was at the 2020 speech, and I don't remember it.
Were you at the White House or were you at Fort McHenry?
I went to both.
Oh, you went to both? Okay.
I went to both.
So you got mugged in COVID too, right? If you went to the White House. Didn't everybody get COVID that went to the White House?
I didn't get COVID, but we did have to walk through the mob. That was rough.
The ones that attacked. See, Rand Paul was attacked because of the vicious language of the left twice. Once by his lawnmower. I mean, not a lawnmower. A neighbor while he was mowing the lawn. You know,
he a couple times. Yeah, I don't know what it is about Rand Paul, but he had a couple people.
Yeah, it's a libertarian thing, you know. They hate him on the left and the right.
Yeah. But the convention was good. I mean, Jason, I guess hasn't finished his thoughts on the convention.
Oh no, go ahead.
It was good. I mean, it was unifying. Apparently, everybody seems to think that the party's well behind Trump.
Yeah, and Dwight mentioned Nikki Haley. I mean, she was good in that sense that by endorsing Trump, but she also was very honest in saying, like, you don't have to agree with a person 100% of the time, and that she admitted I don't agree with him 100% of the time, right? Yeah. And so she was very open and very honest about it. But here this was the last rival, really, and it was a very bitter rivalry, particularly from Trump's standpoint. And so she was up there and and giving him his due and everything and his support. So it was great. I think one of the things I enjoyed about the convention, the pieces that I watched too, were all the delegates had decided to wear a bandage.
Yeah. Well, MSNB calls that a prop.
Well, I mean, I really don't know. My first reaction when I saw Trump with the bandage is like, that's a really big bandage.
Well, they may call it a prop, but I would think your doctor would tell you still got to cover it up because of infection.
It could get infected. It could get infected.
You just gotta have to cover it up, and it's the ear.
I don't know. I thought this would be very Trumpian, is to have like the biggest bandage you could, attract as much attention as you can. And see if you get more. See if you get a little more sympathy that way and everything like that.
But did you see those memes on social media with the Van Gogh? But the Van Gogh is Trump with the thing around his.
Oh,
I have not seen those.
oh, that's
But
funny.
here's another thing. My sister, who's a diehard Democrat, she loved Hillary Clinton. She voted for Barack Obama. I was told, what will you tell your children when they ask you if you voted for the first black candidate running for president? I would say I voted for the guy that made more sense, frankly, but not by much though. He was John McClane after all. But anyways. But she basically told me in 2020, it's like she told me she voted for. I'm like, really? She goes, "Be great. I don't have to like the person to vote for his policies." Thank you. That is very honest. I wish more people on the left would do that. Is vote for the guy that has the better policy, whether you like him or not.
Yeah, well, my wife she's struggling. She was talking to a friend of hers who's actually coming down from New Hampshire to visit. And they lived here for 20 plus years or whatever. Our kids grew up together and everything like that before she moved to, away to live with one of her kids. But my wife was shocked to find out about a week or so ago that she's going to support Biden. And this, most Latter-day Saints vote Republican, not all. It just depends upon the background of where they are from. And this, she's Japanese. They've always been pretty. She and her late husband were always pretty solid Republicans, not necessarily hardcore conservatives or anything like that. But when my wife runs into these people in her small circle of friends like this, it drives her batty. So this woman is actually going to be staying on our house for a few days, and everything like this. I have a feeling my wife is going to work her over. And that by the time the trip is over, she'll have tipped the scales the other way a little bit, because it drives. She's like, this doesn't make any sense. Are you not pro-life? And she'll probably tick off a whole bunch of things as to what the Republicans and what Donald Trump stands for versus.
And
Joe
I think
Biden.
you should have those Reagan speeches, that were on DVD. Have those playing like through your intercom system.
Well, Trump derangement syndrome is sort of
irrational. It's a variant of the Bush derangement syndrome, which was a variant of the original Bush derangement syndrome, which is a variation of the Reagan derangement, Ford derangement, Nixon derangement, Eisenhower derangement.
My wife is wondering though whether or not she's actually having this reaction, this whole thing, because in terms of her friend, voting for Biden or wanting to vote for Biden, because the son-in-law she's living with is a diehard conservative, and she says, I wonder if Steve has just like turned her off, and so she's basically kind of trying to do like the offset, right? Counteract the vote, which could be true. This woman is a dear friend of ours. She's a wonderful person. She's also very compassionate and very gullible. So the right messages from the Democrats, that'll suck you in, right?
Don't you care about puppies and poor people? Don't you have to eat, hey, Jason, poor puppies, you're a sucker for those, right? Poor puppies.
Poor puppies?
Poor puppies.
Puppies
that are, yes.
Yeah.
Plus the millions of people that are letting in the country.
Jason, who's not for puppies?
Who's that?
Governor Nome.
Yeah. Well, I was worried about Jim Justice and Baby Dog. Keep her away from Baby Dog.
Yeah.
Hey, Baby Dog was a huge hit, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty funny. That was one of the funnier. I
didn't see that part. What was he trying to do? What was the point there?
I didn't see. All I saw was the clip.
Yeah.
And the last 20 seconds. I had no idea what he was talking about. I had no idea what Justice was talking about. And then the camera just pans, and then there's a big old bulldog sitting there out of breath in his chair, just up on the stage. So
I think that worked better than Clint Eastwood in the empty stool thing.
The empty chair, yeah.
Yeah.
But just think, Dwight, it wasn't Alex Mooney up there.
Yeah.
It's justice.
Well, you know what's funny is Christy Nome spoke the day. Didn't she speak earlier the same day, Jason? Or was it on Monday? And
I don't
Justice
remember
spoke
which
on
day.
Tuesday. But Christy Nome was in there, be funny if she went up after. But I was kind of shocked to see Christy Nome getting a primetime speaking gig, frankly.
Did she?
Well, it wasn't prime time, but she still got to address the convention.
Okay.
It was in the 7 o'clock hour when it was in the C-SPAN hours when C-SPAN covers the conventions,
Mm.
Well, I mean, she's a pretty big name in the party still. I mean, she kind of took a fall with the whole shooting the dog thing, and it's like Corinne sent to us the other day. In North Dakota, you go into a room and everybody's gonna, half the people are gonna say they've put down their dog themselves before. They just wouldn't write about it.
Hey, why pay a vet to put your dog to sleep?
Well, in some places in North Dakota, there's probably not a vet around for a good 3-4 hours. So that's out in real America. Out in real America, that's something that goes on all the time.
Yeah,
especially in hunting dogs. Then they hunt.
Then they shock the elites that have a vet every 30 minutes or whatever away. But yeah, you live out in an area where it's much more desolate. It's like, what are your choices? The best thing to do is to go out. I mean, and those kind of people, they're shooting their animals all the time. Anyway, right? That's the choice they have to make.
Didn't Elmer Fudd do that to the rival for Foghorn Leghorns, the dog? That what I was called. When the dog got too old, Elmer took him out back and.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good analogy. Exactly, but that is so you.
Although what's funny is there was going to Looney Tunes for a second there, but Elmer Fudd was a vegetarian. He only hunted for the sport of it.
What kind of vegetarian?
I don't know where you come up with this stuff.
No, there was the duck season, rabbit season episode where Daffy Duck, and Daffy's reading a cookbook how to cook a rabbit, and Bugs is reading a book on how to cook a duck, and that's when Aaron goes, "Well, I'm really a vegetarian, and I only hunt for the sport of it." Then Daffy's like, "There's other sports you could, tennis," and they go through a whole litany of other sports you could be doing other than hunting animals. But
I want to see that clip.
I'll find it. I'll send it to you.
I want verification on my cartoons.
Yeah, definitely. I could do that. Too bad MeTV Tunes is not available on files.
I never usually watch cartoons, but for me, and I'm a cat lover, Tom and Jerry, I always wanted Tom.
I hated that cartoon with such a passion.
Mouse. I wanted him to kill the mouse.
I hated that cartoon. Why are Tom and Jerry mutes? Everyone else can talk on the cartoon except Tom, and just Spike the dog. I liked him. He could talk. The alley cats could talk. Was Tom just a mute?
Yet it ran. It seemed like forever, right? I mean, it's an iconic cartoon show, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of things they view as iconic. I don't.
Well, that and Roadrunner. I mean, Roadrunner was going for a while.
Yeah, well, he had his own show on Saturday mornings, Bugs and Roadrunner show.
Mm.
Then they reworked it as the Bugs and Tweety show. And anyways, but
no, I hated Tweety.
I think we've kind of talked the convention to death. Jason, any other thoughts on the convention?
Nope.
VP
nope.
Vance.
The more interesting one will be in about 3 weeks.
But everyone thinks it was a good pick, Vance.
I mean, it looks like it's okay. I mean, he's got his background is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
His connections to the Silicon Valley are interesting. I mean, it is with Peter Thiel and more of the libertarian group and things like that. Yeah. But that's fine. I think, as the Wall Street Journal pointed out, though, one question mark will be is the fact that he has praised Lena Khan of the FTC and for what she's doing there. That's a little bit of a red flag, because that woman is run roughshod over on the FTC. Luckily the courts have basically shut her off at almost every turn, but I mean, he said she was doing a good job. So it's kind of like, it's a little bit odd, in terms of his defense of Lena Khan and her policies and everything like that. But, maybe he'll come around on some of that, if they win, and they put, they get a conservative, in there as FTC chair, they'll be able to reverse course, and he'll probably be fine with that, and all of that. And, it's yeah, I mean, he's got a great story. Will he bring a ton to the ticket and win a lot of extra votes? Not necessarily. I think you're right about, he's future MAGA, and they look at this continues the MAGA tradition, and kind of cements, Trump's legacy in the party and how he's reshaped the party.
Yeah.
So those things are good.
I got something funny. The Democrats are already calling him a white supremacist. He hates minorities. And who's his wife? What's her name? Yeah. Where's she from? Where her family's from, I should say. He can't be that much of a racist and a white supremacist. And he's and then I actually had a liberal go, well, Indians are not really, they're actually white because they're one of the founding members of the British Commonwealth. And I'm like, so that's all it takes to be white. Be one of the founding members. Because they go, all the other members were white people too, like the New Zealanders, the Australians, the South Africans. And, the British never let a non-white country be part of their founders of the Commonwealth. And I feel that's a little funny. And that's like grasping at straws. I guess we would do something right if our candidate was demented and had no chance in hell of winning,
Well, that was just a desperation. I mean, that's just sort of, yeah.
Right. And I'm still on some DNC email list. And, over the last few weeks, I've noticed more desperation in their emails and more frequency too. They've been shooting more out, and they're more desperate. As soon as Vance was announced as the VP pick, they came out firing with that. And, approaching, when he was going to speak on, what was it, Wednesday night, more emails went out, criticizing him. And after he spoke, they sent out more emails about that. And, I try to be objective about that. And I'm like, there's nothing here. I mean, there's just nothing here. They're grasping at straws in an effort to try to keep their ticket alive, but they have got a huge problem.
Yeah.
And think about what you said, Don. The huge problem is when we meet next week on the show, will Biden still be in the race?
Well, if the Democrats believe in democracy, he better be.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think they do. I don't know. I mean, I hope he hangs on. I hope the dementia stubbornness keeps him sustained to hang on.
I mean, Politico has, what is it, 32 representatives, Democrats, that are saying time to go.
Yeah.
I mean, the momentum is just, it's building. I mean, he could theoretically withstand it. I mean, there's a few senators that have come out against him, things like that. But, it's clearly, the tide is shifting, and you have Pelosi and Schumer, the party leaders there, they're not the solid.
But he still has he still has the Black Caucus behind him.
Well, you have you have, like I said at the beginning, you have the squad, who he's trying to pander to now for support. But there's no way that Jill wants him to drop out, right? This is a little bit like if this had happened to Bill Clinton, Hillary would have been going crazy. And I'm sure as they are back in Delaware and pondering this, I'm sure Jill is pounding away at Joe, saying, like, you got to stay. Jill likes this limelight too much,
but his NATO speech that he gave before the convention, it wasn't as bad as people thought it would be. It was that, with the exception of that, he made President Trump his vice president.
People the wrong names. That was he just can't get people's names right.
Well, yeah, I mean, he did that interview with Lester Holt.
Yeah,
where he got
want to put a target on Trump's back.
Well, he's trying to shore up his black support, and You couldn't name Lloyd Austin. Come on.
Yeah, he said that black man in the Pentagon.
Black man.
Damn.
And there was another report from somebody that I guess one of the congressmen or senators, he was meeting with him, and it's like Biden couldn't really remember his name. He, stuff that. But when you watch these things, I mean, that interview was probably a little bit better than the one with Stephanopoulos, which did not help him at all. After the debate, but Biden still has this problem of he tries to answer these questions, and then he kind of goes like this, and then everybody's like, what did he just say? I mean, even if you're the interviewer, like, how much of a pass can you give him? Because it's like, what did he say? How do I react to that?
The other thing is, if you ever print out or just read the transcript of what he says, and it's even more confusing. Because remember when he said the president of Ukraine, Vladimir Putin. First off, he wouldn't have corrected himself, except someone I've heard from reporting they yelled to Biden, Zelensky. So then he corrected himself. And then he said the oddest thing that to me, that no one caught this one. He said, I'm really obsessed, not obsessed, but I'm really out to stop Vladimir Putin. So
yeah. Hold on 1 second. Hey, Dave, do you think we'll have this moment at the DNC?
Stockdale, your opening statement, please, sir.
Who am I?
Yeah.
Am I here?
That was a classic.
I know. I wonder if we're going to see that when they go to Chicago. I mean, he does like to plagiarize a lot, so maybe he's going to plagiarize Admiral Stockdale.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I've never seen anything like this. I've been following politics all my life and presidential campaigns since the late 80s, but this is a real head scratcher because he seems dug in. I think Jill's going to want him to run. Hunter's going to want him to run. And I don't know with his state of mind what information he's getting, how he processes it. The other thing about Joe Biden is if you look at his career, he's a bad decision maker. And I think he's also indecisive. So I don't know what he's going to do. I assume he'll get out, but and I only base that on all these people saying he is going to, but I don't know.
I mean his
presidency has not been about him making decisions, right? He's really not making. He's let others basically make decisions, and then he announces a decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jason, you were saying?
Well, it's just like how long ago was the debate? Because we were on the show
almost a month.
June 27th,
3-4 weeks ago, and Don, I think Don was like, "Well, we'll see if it goes through the weekend." It's been 4 weeks.
Yeah. This is remarkable, isn't it? I mean, this should have been a short-term situation.
Yeah,
a debate would normally have a short shelf life, but this debate was so bad. It had spun out of control for the Democrats, and here we are almost a month later, and they're still talking about it to the point that where they may not have a presidential nominee. The president of the United States may be withdrawing from the campaign and not seek re-election, which would have been unfathomable on June 26th. In essence, that was not something that was. But boy, June 27th, everything changed. And it didn't get any better, right? It just didn't get any better since then.
I almost think that he could have survived. I mean, he may still, but it really was his response to it over the next couple of weeks that sunk him, because he had the Stephanopoulos interview, not very good. He had the Lester Holt interview, not very good. The BET interview, not very good. So, and then he had an argument with a Zoom call with a number of members of Congress. And he says to the guy, name one foreign leader that thinks I've slipped or whatever. But it was an odd thing because, well, why do we judge presidents based on what foreign leaders think? And secondly, how would this congressman know? This congressman's not talking to foreign leaders. How would he be able to name a foreign leader that said something bad about Biden? Because they wouldn't publicly say to anybody, hey, this guy's brains have turned to mashed potatoes. So I think it was just it was the response to the debate. It was a bad debate, but then he handled it horribly in terms of putting it to rest or making people think that was just a one-off.
Right, and he gave that speech where he was really angry, right? I mean, it is showing that the loss of his temperament there too. So these are things that are showing that there are cracks that are formed because they're not cool, calm, and collected. Kamala's trying to tamp down some of these things, but she's terrible, so she can't. She doesn't really help and inspire any Democrats on their end either. I mean, the way Axios, I think, put it was just that, Biden was stepped down, but then he'll also say that he will not endorse Harris, but we'll say that there should be an open convention. Well, that'll be a free for all. I mean, that's a doomsday scenario for the Democrats. Maybe somebody can run halfway decent against Trump, but now we're talking about an open convention with now just less than 3 months to go, and and they can't, if it's not Harris, they can't tap the money that the Democrats are, Biden has raised, right? They need new money.
I think it's gonna.
Donors have already pulled out, right? I mean, so the Silicon Valley. I mean, you got people, traditional Democrats, Bill Ackman, and a lot of others that are saying, they're going for Trump. Elon Musk. $45 million a month for the super PAC for Trump. So I mean, this is a huge problem. I mean, the Republicans start bringing in this kind of money. They're just going to smash them.
Yeah. And I tell you, Don, there is a scenario where AOC becomes the DNC's nominee. Because most of these delegates are lefty wackos. I can see them getting behind AOC for president. And she would be the dream candidate to run against.
We got the dream candidate in Joe Biden, so we don't want to.
But she'd be the other dream. She'd be the second dream, the follow-up dream. After
I think there's going to be a lot of people I think people like AOC. I even think if it did get to the point where it was an open convention, I think you might see a lot of people. I don't think a lot of people really think AOC would do it, but somebody like a Gavin Newsom, I feel like Gavin Newsom might say, I'm not running, because somebody like Newsom, I feel like it would almost hurt his political trajectory because you're taking on not an impossible, but a really uphill battle where he could just wait till 2028, clean slate.
Yeah. Honestly, Democrats who really want to run, they should actually hold out until 2028, frankly.
That would be smart. The only person that seems to be pushed so much is, and I think I saw it on Fox late last night, is Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, seems to be the donor's big favorite. Because I guess there was a donor, there was a poll that Democrat donors paid for, and all of the polls had Josh Shapiro with Gretchen Whitmer as a running mate, one with Wes Moore as a running mate, one with Newsom, one with Harris. They ran all the polls. They polled every type of situation that had Josh Shapiro in it, which is
I think though this will never happen. I think, but Mark Warner would be formal because Mark Warner is not as crazy.
Dwight, you're the only one pushing this Mark Warner thing.
He was doing in the pre-show too, Jason.
My point is this, right? If you're the Democrats, right? If you actually want to stand a snowball's chance of winning, you would nominate a quasi wannabe moderate, like
he's not insane. Those Democrats were, he got elected to the Senate however many years ago.
2006.
So 18 years.
Yeah.
He'll probably stay in the Senate another 18 years. He never really sticks his head out. Yeah. Just kind of lays low, right? Because he was the one who started the draft to get Joe Biden out of their letter, right? Amongst the Democrats. And then somebody got a hold of him and told him to stop, and he stopped. Right? Yeah. Not the kind of.
He doesn't want to be primaried by.
That is a career guy, right? I don't think he would do anything that's.
But the other thing, Dwight, you're thinking like, you're not really a Democrat in the sense that they wouldn't like a Mark Warner. They'd like the lefties, and that's what
they would prefer Tim Kaine, and they don't even like Tim Kaine that much either, frankly.
Yeah.
But I kind of like that idea of Josh Shapiro. I mean, I could see the DNC going over there. The Democrats saying, "Hey, look, Biden steps down. We don't. Harris is not going to do it. She's too much tied to Biden anyway, and her performance has been miserable. Her polling is terrible. Go ahead and run. Let's get a VP. Let's see how you do, and then we will set you up for 2028. In essence, this will be a testing ground. If you do halfway decent, considering that you're going to be by the time he would get nominated, it'll be like 80 days or 78 days or whatever it is until the election. You probably wouldn't hold out a whole lot of hope that anybody could win with that short a timeline jumping into the campaign, but they could sow the seeds of saying, okay, we have some support. He ran pretty decently, considering that he agreed to be the sacrificial lamb for the party, in essence, to kind of save us a little bit. So he's going to be the front runner for 2028 and get the monetary support and everything he needs. So, I mean, Shapiro could wind up being that dark horse, and then 2028 being the front runner.
But if you're Shapiro, why would you want to be the sacrificial lamb if, frankly, you already have a sacrificial lamb in Joe Biden, right? Mm-hmm. If you're going to lose, you may as well just bite on the pencil and lose with Joe Biden. Because let me tell you, if Shapiro gets shellacked, which I think he would, where Trump wins, like over 30 states, 30, 35 states, getting close to the 40s, there's no way he'd be their nominee in 4 years. All the good people should be sitting. If I were advising a Democrat who wants to run for president, I would say wait to 2028, frankly.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of these states, early voting starts in mid-September, like Virginia.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the other problem, right? Too, is that early voting kicks in, and you also have an issue of ballot access issues and things like that, making sure you get all those things squared away. So there are a lot of complications to this for the Democrats, but I think it's more embarrassing for an incumbent president to get shellacked than to throw up somebody else at the last minute, kind of a thing, and saying, because he can always use an excuse. Well, I only had 3 months or 2.5 months to do this thing, so you kind of give them a little bit of a pass. And I mean, I think Josh Shapiro would do better than Gavin Newsom. I think Gavin Newsom carries too much baggage from California.
Yeah,
or he could be their Hubert Humphrey.
But all this gets down to the fact that this should have happened like last year. And then what you do is you have a primary. It's like when Governor Clinton ran in 91. Well, nobody knew him, but he went through the Iowa caucus, went to New Hampshire. And that's a way of vetting. People get to know him. That's the whole purpose.
Much longer than any normal candidate. Most candidates would have dropped out after when Jerry Brown beats you in a primary, and you come in third or fourth against Jerry Brown, that's saying, hey, maybe I should drop out. Maybe I should think about dropping out. Yeah. But no, he sticks around all the way to the Georgia primary was the first primary he won.
Well, the point is that Mark Halperin and the others say, hey, there's still plenty of time for Shapiro or Andy Beshear to get known. Well, yes and no. The people want to think of they want to see their president, someone to be president. They want to think about it. They want to know him for a little bit. They want to, learn a lot about him. I just don't think there's enough time for somebody to start off as nobody knows him in the 49 states. And here's your nominee. They didn't go through the primary. Nobody voted for him, but here's your nominee. I just don't see that working. Plus, have they been thinking about these issues? In terms of Afghanistan, in terms of Ukraine. I just don't think the person's going to be even prepared. No matter what you think, Shapiro may be a brilliant guy, but I don't know that he's. I doubt actually he'd be ready to be president of the United States, or Bashir, or Whitmer.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a good argument right there too, because even if there are people that are turned off by Biden, if you don't really know Shapiro or whoever that they would get to replace Biden,
Yeah.
will fewer Democrats turn out to vote and hurt the down ballot? Who's going to hurt the down ballot more at this point in time? A replacement for Biden or Biden?
But here's the thing, Don. If they replace Biden with Shapiro, what are women going to do? What are blacks going to do? You basically pulled the rug out from a black female.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look what Trump has done. Trump is doing, he's so much better, with black voters, with Latino voters, Hispanic voters. I mean, this is a problem because the huge advantage that Biden had, with these groups has been shaved by huge margins, and it's enough. That's why that Biden's losing in a lot of these states, is because it's the minority vote that looks like it's shifting to Trump and away from Biden. It's enough to tip the election to Trump at this point. They've seen it. I mean, they've seen the economic effects of what Biden has done, and they want to cast their lot with Trump, thinking like,
stocks are having a rally this week. Stocks are also doing better this week. Not today, but overall they did pretty well for the week.
Yeah, and look, and I've always argued. I mean, I don't think you should tie the stock market to a president and a performance. Stock market has got a lot of factors that go into that, and most of it is independent of what the president does, because the president doesn't really control the purse strings anyway. The Congress controls the purse strings and spending, if they're concerned about those kinds of things. So, the president can take credit or receive the blame for which way the market's going, but the stock market went up largely under Obama. These arguments don't really work, because the stock market has its own mind in terms of what they're looking for and how they think. Is Joe Biden responsible for the rally in tech, and AI? Does he even know what AI really is? He could use AI to get his campaign through these things, probably.
By the way, this is the fastest show. I think we're at Final Thoughts. Is the fastest show we've had in a while, I think. A lot of stuff, and we got to like 4 or 5 points on the talking script today. So, final thoughts. David, final thoughts. Give us your final thoughts.
Well, some good news. I was in Central Baltimore Republican Committee group. I spoke to them about my book, and that went well. In Timonium, Raleigh's Oysters. So I had a good time there. I'm speaking tomorrow in Alexandria about my book. Otherwise, doing good, and just hoping and praying that Biden remains on the ticket. And but that's about it.
Final thoughts, Don Irvine.
Final thoughts. I'll just say, tip my hat to Corey Compatore, the retired firefighter who was shot and killed during the assassination attempt by protecting his wife and his daughter. There was a funeral in Pennsylvania, with the traditional firefighters that come out and do their procession and everything like that. And my hat's off to all those who contributed to, I guess it was a GoFundMe campaign for the family. I'd heard it was, within days it was over $3 million, and hopefully maybe it's grown since then. So that's great. And then just a RIP for Bob Newhart, great comedian, and for Lou Dobbs, a great financial, watched him on CNN, watched him on Fox, hardcore Trump guy at the end and everything like that. And they'll all be missed.
Yeah. Hey, Don, do you remember the original Newhart show? Was it Bob Newhart? Was that the name of the first one?
Yeah, Bob Newhart show, and then Newhart was second.
Yeah. And then Bob was the third series.
I don't remember Bob so much, man.
But there was the original Newhart show, his neighbor, the airline pilot, I forget who plays
Bill
him.
Daly played him.
Yeah, Bill Daly. Yeah, he was Roger Healy on I Dream G. But anyways,
I Dream Virginia.
Yeah.
there was an episode where he's got a brother named Norman, who's a doorman,
Yes.
and the joke was Susan Pashetsky. So Norman Boardman is a Mormon doorman because he was a Mormon also.
I don't remember that part. One
That
of my
was,
favorite, the favorites, was that Larry, my brother Larry, my other brother Larry.
Daryl was the other brother.
Daryl, and Daryl. Okay, yeah. So.
Well, the most famous, and Paul Weyrich used to tell this story, the longest named bill in the history of Congress was it was a resolution to award the ping pong team went to Hong Kong. The U.S. ping pong team went to Hong Kong. The bill was sponsored by Senator Fong and Senator Spong from Virginia. And it was the Spong Fong Hong Kong ping pong ding dong bill.
Goodness gracious.
So Jason,
sorry to bother your time. Take your time.
Yeah, go ahead.
My final thoughts. If you are a man,
I was going to ask you Bob Newhart. I think Don still has a couple more step.
Oh.
I was just asking about Have you ever heard of Bob Newhart?
No, who's that?
Yeah. You don't even remember the Newhart show where he was the innkeeper in Vermont, do you?
Jason, that's before Jason's time. I don't know that he would have. Newhart was in the 90s, right? The second show was the 90s.
No,
the 70s.
The 80s. The 80s.
Was it the 80s? Okay.
Bob was in the 90s.
Okay.
And I just realized that young Jason was only in the fourth grade and Barack Hussein Obama got elected.
Wow. Jeez,
Jason was a child of the 2000s, right?
Man.
Yeah, fourth or fifth. I don't remember. 2008. Yeah, I'm not sure. I would have been 10, so probably fifth grade.
Wow. I turned 40 when he ran for re-election.
Yeah.
But anyways, Don, your final thoughts?
That's it. That was it.
Oh.
Susan, yes. I see Susan's got it right. Daryl, and Larry. So there was a Larry in there somewhere.
Yeah, Larry was the one that spoke. The two Daryls were mutes on the show.
Right. Yeah, it was only Larry, I think, that spoke.
Yeah.
But it's funny, in the series finale, they got rich and got married. They yell at their wives, and Bob's like, "You've never spoken before. We've never had anything to say."
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, Jason. Final thoughts. Your turn.
If you're my age, if you're a man in your early to late 20s and maybe even early 30s, this is a big week for you if you're a college football fan, because the college football video games came back out. They were canceled 11 years ago because of the players suing over not being paid. It took all of the years. It's sort of an interesting fallout thing. It took all of these years until about 2 years ago when they made it where players in college can basically be paid.
Yeah.
2 years since then, and they've re-released the college football video game. And I've been playing it a lot this week.
Are you playing the Terps?
Haven't been doing a lot of work.
Don't worry, get this out of your system before you start law school, Jason.
That's right. Exactly. It came at a perfect time. So yeah, it's very interesting. And the way that they got to put all the players and put their names in it and put their likeness in the game is every player in college football, and there's 130-some teams, and multiply that by 80, and there's about 8,000 some players, and they all got $600 and a copy of the game.
Okay.
So it was very.
Are you playing the Terps when you play? Are you the Terps?
Terps are one of the worst power conference teams in the game, kind of like they are in real life. They're down there with Vanderbilt. The two, they're not great, but
something like that. It kind of amazes me though, just too because of the transfer portal. It's like it's such a shuffle all the time. I mean, to get that right at any point in time, it's like, okay, here it is. Unless something else dramatic happens and somebody gets another exception or whatever. But boy, I mean, it's so hard to keep track of things. I can only imagine, as they come up with subsequent. Every year, you're just going to see things just dramatically change.
Right. Yeah, and there's tons of teams, there's tons of people, and now I sort of think it's better that way, where before, if you wanted to transfer, you had to sit out a year and then wait. And when I was a student at University of Maryland, and if I decided I'd like to transfer and go to University of North Dakota, I could just do it. So if I don't know, I'm fine with the whole.
Oh, did you play football for Maryland?
No.
Oh.
No. But if you're a student, you could decide to leave and go to a different school at any time you want. So
Exactly.
I don't know why the athletes.
Sarah Palin did it 4 times. Remember?
She did.
Yeah, she transferred 4 times.
It happens. It happens. But anyway, that's my final thought. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Well, my final thoughts are the Orioles are still in first place. They're still in first place. They're a game ahead of the Yankees, and that's Orioles magic. It's great to see them doing so well. I mean, they could lose every game from here on out, and I'd still be very happy because this is like 2 back-to-back seasons where they're not an embarrassment. It says a lot. Now I just think they should move out of the city and move to the suburbs, like move over by the airport or something like that.
Would that help attendance issues? I've seen a lot of people complaining about it.
I think it would.
Last weekend, I think it was Sunday, the last series of the Yankees. It was the last game in their series against the Yankees, and the 2 top teams in the
those used to always sell out.
American League.
Yeah,
and it was like a few thousand people went. It was really underattended. I think it was Sunday, and I think it was a day game. And a lot of people said it was because it was too hot and it was during that big heat wave. But
I think people are afraid to go to Baltimore City about getting shot and stuff like that. That's a real thing. I mean, real thing you got to take into consideration. When you go into Baltimore City, am I going to come out of here alive?
Yeah.
But I think if they were to move to because nobody goes to Arundel Mills anymore. If they were to demolish Arundel Mills Mall and build a stadium there, that'd be great. Yeah, they're still close enough to Baltimore, so they can still be called the Orioles, and it's so much easier to get to. Not as much traffic. I mean,
we're trying to rebuild, get the old property on 33rd and Charles Street.
No, that's still in the city. Nobody wants to live in the city. Nobody wants to go to a game in the city.
Yeah, I might even go to an Orioles game if they actually left the city.
I think people would go because I think part of the problem is parking sucks down there at Camden. It's hard to get down there. 2, you're not safe. I gotta say that half jokingly, but a night game, do you really want to be walking back 3-4 blocks, 2 blocks to your car when you could meet up with some gangbanger who's going to just is going to kill you for whatever money you have left in your wallet, and so on. That's another thing, Jason, I think is the high price of a baseball game is also why people are staying away. Because back when I was a kid, you could get tickets, decent tickets for about $5 to $10 at an Orioles game, maybe $20, maybe I should say. Now, 5 to 10, you can get a decent, and now a decent seat is $100, I think is.
It depends on. They've all adopted dynamic pricing, so it depends on who you're playing too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the tickets are, because most of you pretty much have to buy tickets online through some sort of vendor at some point. And if you buy a cheap ticket, it'll be $18 or something for nosebleeds, and maybe you can walk down after the 3rd inning or something. But the thing that you run into is when you buy it through these ticket vendors, the face value is $18, but then there's electronic delivery
Ticketmaster fees,
and then another fee and another fee and another fee, and then it's your $18 ticket is actually $36, right?
Yeah. So I guess we should go see the Orioles when they play the White Sox. No one's going to that game. White Sox have 27 wins.
I'm going to start going to Texas Rangers games.
They're not doing too shabbily, by the way. The Texas Rangers are not that bad.
They'll be lucky to make the
good.
playoffs. They need to run. I mean, we have the trade deadlines coming up. We'll see what teams are buying and selling, or teams like the Orioles, the Yankees. They need some help to make it to the finish line. Rangers are struggling, but we'll see. I mean, you never know. I mean, the Mariners may falter. The Astros kind of rose up a little bit, but you can't tell. There's injuries the tail of the tape in a lot of cases. Too many injuries.
Yeah, by the way, the other team to see would be the Marlins in Baltimore, because they suck also. And the Oakland A's, all under 40. The A's, the White Sox, and the Marlins, under 30. The White Sox only have 27 wins. I feel their pain as an Orioles fan. I know how bad it is. But
I'll be at the Bay Sox game tomorrow night. So.
Oh, nice.
Cheaper tickets.
By the way, the Savannah Bananas, I'm seeing a lot more pictures of people going to their games on Facebook.
Well, they just came to DC and they played over at Nat Stadium too. So,
who they play?
They just play.
They're like the Globetrotters.
Yeah,
they play
that's what it really kind of is like that. Especially if they're playing banana ball, it definitely is.
I thought they were playing the Nats, and the Nats still lost. Other final thoughts is one is next Thursday. Come on out and see Governor Ehrlich and have some of the best pizza in all of Maryland at the lovely Stained Glass Pub. This is an event so Governor Ehrlich can give away his books to college kids when he goes to campuses and stuff like that. So when Governor Ehrlich goes out to your law school to speak, Jason, he'll be able to give you a free book.
There you go. I can get a free book next week at Stained Glass Pub.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Actually, I think I already have a book. He already did one for you from the last Ehrlich event that you were going to come to that you didn't make it to. But yeah, come on out. It's great. Come out there for the Gov. Enjoy the pizza. Help the kids. Tickets are $90, and that buys 4 books. And just think, $90. You'll be giving 4 college kids a copy of Governor Ehrlich's book, which, by the way, has been revised, and there are now, I think, 136 reasons why not to vote for Joe Biden. And you can go to mcgopclub.com to buy your tickets, or just pay at the door. And that's it for my final thoughts. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Have a good weekend, guys.